Daniel Briggs was a decorated police officer. Emily Carter was a compassionate nurse and his brand new bride. 10 days after their wedding, she was dead on the floor of a Bora Bora bungalow, and Daniel was the only witness. What looked like a tropical honeymoon quickly unraveled into a nightmare of lies, control, and deadly violence. Beneath the sun-soaked paradise was a brutal truth no one saw coming until it was too late. Daniel Briggs and Emily Carter had only been married 10 days when they landed in Bora Bora for their honeymoon. To the outside world, they looked like a picture-perfect couple. Their wedding photos showed bright smiles, dancing under twinkling lights, and promises of a future built on love. Daniel, a respected 34-year-old police officer, had served over a decade on the force. Emily, a 29-year-old emergency room nurse, was known for her kindness and dedication. Together, they seemed like a match made in heaven. They checked into one of the island's most luxurious overwater bungalows. The turquoise waters and quiet setting made it the ideal location for a romantic escape. The first 2 days of their stay went by uneventfully. They lounged by the lagoon, posed for vacation selfies, and ordered room service late into the night. Hotel staff noted nothing unusual during their interactions, but subtle changes began to surface. By the third day, Emily was often seen alone. Around the resort, she seemed withdrawn, her body language tense. Guests recalled her pacing near the beach, speaking softly on her phone, and checking over her shoulder. Her posts on social media stopped, and she didn't return messages from friends. Hotel records later revealed she tried to reschedule their return flight, an unusual move for someone supposed to be on a dream vacation. On the fourth night, a call came into the front desk from Daniel. He claimed Emily had slipped in the bathroom and wasn't breathing. Resort medics rushed to the bungalow, but it was already too late. Emily was dead. What was initially treated as a tragic accident soon raised serious questions. The scene looked off. The injuries didn't match a simple fall, and whispers around the resort hinted that something much darker had happened inside that bungalow. The initial response from emergency personnel was procedural. Daniel Briggs told them Emily had been getting out of the shower when she slipped on the wet tile, hitting her head. She was unresponsive when he found her. Paramedics attempted CPR, but declared her dead at the scene. The resort staff, though shaken, tried to believe it was nothing more than a heartbreaking accident, but inconsistencies began to surface almost immediately. Emily's injuries were not consistent with a simple fall. Bruises were found not only on her head, but also on her arms, back, and chest. Her wrists had faint red marks, suggesting she had been grabbed or restrained. Her nose was broken, and there were small lacerations near her temple. An autopsy was ordered, and the results left no room for doubt. Emily had suffered a violent attack. Blunt force trauma was the cause of death, not a slip in the bathroom. Authorities questioned Daniel again. His version of events remained the same, but his tone had changed. He was defensive, guarded, and refused to allow his phone to be searched without a warrant. He declined to answer further questions without a lawyer present. Resort staff began sharing their observations. A housekeeper remembered seeing broken glass on the floor of the bungalow earlier in the day. A bartender recalled Emily arriving alone the previous afternoon, appearing nervous and distracted. Security footage showed her walking through the lobby, visibly upset, and later speaking to a concierge, apparently asking about changing rooms. The pieces didn't fit the story Daniel gave. Emily had tried to escape something or someone before she died. The more investigators uncovered, the more it looked like this wasn't an accident. It was a homicide, and the person who claimed to love her most was now their prime suspect. As the investigation deepened, Daniel Briggs' past began to unravel. What had once looked like a polished record as a respected police officer now showed troubling cracks beneath the surface. His personnel file, while largely clean, contained two internal complaints that had been quietly buried. One from an ex-girlfriend alleging physical intimidation and another for aggressive behavior during a domestic call. Neither complaint led to formal charges, but both incidents were noted as concerning by department supervisors, Emily's family and friends, initially shocked by her sudden death, began to speak more openly. A close friend revealed that Emily had confided in her weeks before the wedding, expressing doubts about Daniel's temper. She had mentioned moments of control, him checking her phone without permission, monitoring her whereabouts, and making her feel guilty about spending time away from him. Despite her fears, Emily had gone through with the wedding, hoping that the change in environment might bring peace to their relationship. Digital evidence supported their concerns. Messages recovered from Emily's phone included drafts she never sent and notes describing her growing fear. One unsent message read, "If anything happens to me, it was Daniel." Investigators also discovered a voice memo in which she spoke quietly about a recent fight. She said Daniel had grabbed her, pushed her, and screamed at her for trying to change their return flight. The most alarming discovery was a small journal in her luggage, hidden in a zipped pocket. In it, she had documented days leading up to the trip, including emotional outbursts and signs she was being closely monitored. Her final entry ended mid-sentence, as if she had stopped writing abruptly. This private record painted a chilling picture, one of emotional control, fear, and a final attempt to escape that came too late. The image of a loving honeymoon had fully crumbled. The trial of Daniel Briggs drew international attention. A police officer accused of murdering his wife during their honeymoon in one of the world's most romantic locations was a story that shocked and fascinated the public. The courtroom was filled with reporters, grieving family members, and legal teams from both the United States and French Polynesia. Prosecutors laid out a case built on physical evidence, digital records, and behavioral patterns. The prosecution began by detailing Emily's injuries. Expert witnesses explained that the bruises and fractures on her body were consistent with repeated blows, not a fall. Bloodstains found beneath the bathroom tiles had been partially cleaned but matched Emily's DNA. A fragment of her broken bracelet was discovered behind the toilet, and a dent in the wall aligned with the shape of her head wound. Forensic timelines indicated that her death occurred hours before Daniel called for help. Audio files from Emily's phone were played in court. In one, she described being afraid and wanting to leave the island early. The final memo ended with the sound of raised voices and a door slamming. Her journal was also presented as evidence, with entries documenting a pattern of emotional manipulation and control, starting even before their wedding day. The defense argued that Daniel was in shock and panicked after a tragic accident. They claimed Emily had been emotional, slipped during an argument, and that Daniel had done everything he could to save her. But the jury wasn't convinced. The combination of injuries, forensic details, and Emily's own words left little doubt about what had happened. After deliberation, Daniel Briggs was found guilty of second-degree murder. He was sentenced to 30 years without parole and transferred to a U.S. federal prison. Justice, long overdue, had finally been served. In the months that followed the trial, Emily Carter's name became a symbol of quiet strength and the tragic consequences of hidden abuse. Her family, devastated by the loss, channeled their grief into action. They launched the Emily Carter Foundation, dedicated to raising awareness about domestic violence, particularly among young women in new relationships. The foundation provided resources for recognizing warning signs and offered emergency support for those trying to leave unsafe situations across the country. Emily's story was shared in news reports, documentaries, and advocacy forums. Her journal entries, once private reflections of fear, were now used as teaching tools in awareness campaigns. Survivors who had lived through similar situations found courage in her words, recognizing patterns they had ignored or explained away. Bora Bora, once associated with romance and escape, quietly implemented new safety measures at the resort where Emily had stayed. Staff received enhanced training on how to recognize signs of domestic abuse. A confidential guest support system was introduced, allowing individuals to discreetly report concerns or seek help. Though these changes came too late for Emily, they were steps toward preventing future tragedies. Daniel Briggs, stripped of his badge, rank, and public respect, began his sentence in silence. He gave no statements, received few visitors, and faded from public view. What remained was the shocking contrast between the man he had pretended to be and the violence he ultimately revealed. Emily's final days exposed how abuse can hide behind smiles and vows, and how quickly love can turn deadly. Her life was full of promise, her future bright, until trust was shattered by the one person who vowed to protect her. Though she is gone, Emily Carter's voice continues to echo. Through the foundation in her name, the people she's inspired, and the lives her story may yet save.